Welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast with your hosts, Jay Bolden and Ken Kraus.
Welcome to the podcast called From the Coach's Mouth. I am Jay Bolden from Be Bold Fastpitch, joined by some really amazing people today. My co-host is, Ken, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
All righty. I'm Ken Kraus from Softball Success. And our guest today is the one and only Rick Pauly. Who better for a first podcast?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk with you guys. You're two of my favorite people and outstanding coaches. So I'm sure we're going to have fun today and make it hopefully a little bit enlightening for some people.
Well, good. So anybody who doesn't know Rick, and we'll be getting into some of his background later, but he is one of the premier pitching coaches in the country. He's had a lot of pitchers that go to recognizable places and names that you would know. He also has been a head coach at pretty much every level. I think possibly the travel ball level, but certainly in junior college, Division I college, probably, touched on some high school and all that kind of thing. Now he is also the head and, the instructor for High Performance Fastpitch, which is a pitching coach certification program that is really unique throughout the country. There are a lot of things where they say, okay, you can get certified, and it's kind of like, it's a McPitching coach school where you do, half a dozen videos or so, and now you're certified. Rick's program is very extensive. It's got lots and lots of videos. It takes a pretty good investment of time to go through it all. And then when you're done, you have to talk to Rick too, and he's going to make sure that you really understand the material. So if you've got a PaulyGirl certification, as both Jay and I do, then you're going to you've accomplished something. You've gained a lot of knowledge.
Well, thanks for that, Ken. I forgot to introduce myself as PaulyGirl Fastpitch. And if anybody's interested in what Ken had to say about a certification program or just picking off one-off courses, just go to PaulyGirlFastpitch.com and see what we have to offer there. It's kind of been a labor of love. And it's not done yet. I just loaded one more brand new video last night, so it's ongoing.
Lots of good resources with Rick too. So Rick has a ton of good resources. But if we can, Rick, let's give a little background how you got into the fast pitch realm, if you don't mind. Like, go ahead and give us a little bit of a background and how you first started out. Where did this all start from?
Wow. Actually, for me, it started a long time ago. I am a farm boy from Wisconsin, and our farm actually right across the road from our property was one of these country taverns with a ball field, and it was a men's fast pitch league that was there. And I was there every night, and I sat right behind home plate, behind the fence. I was absolutely mesmerized by pitching from that day on. I mean, probably since I've been 8 or 9 years old. And it's just, I think if you probably talk to my wife, she would agree that it's sometimes over the top. Just don't seem to be able to get enough of it. So I was there. If you're a farm kid, you are in an organization or club called 4-H. And in Wisconsin, 4-H actually had as an activity fast pitch softball. So that was my first foray into actually playing fast pitch softball and trying to be a pitcher. And it kind of grew from there. After 4-H, I really did not play much fast pitch. I went through my whole college career not playing fast pitch. And I graduated from college. I got this wonderful job in the real world. I'm up in Stillwater, Minnesota. It's kind of a suburb of St. Paul. And one of my buddies called me and said, "Hey, Rick, I'm on this fast pitch team. Would you like to come and join us?" And I said, yeah, it sounds like a good time. Let's go do it. It's probably a good excuse to have a beer, you know? So I go to the first night with him. I meet the guys. I'm on the team. Okay. So the next week we got a game, right? I show up. My buddy doesn't show up. He's the pitcher. I'm the only other person on the team that had ever tried to pitch. That was the start of my pitching career. I wouldn't say that I was stellar, but I had a shout out to my old friends up in Leading and Lake in Minneapolis, and that's where I got started. And it kind of rolled from there. Played the men's game. Got hooked up with a great organization out of River Falls, Wisconsin, Bo's and mine. Then actually migrated back to my hometown of Menominee, Wisconsin, and played for years with our hometown team called the Menominee Blues, which was a very competitive Class A fast-pitch softball team in the Wisconsin, the Midwest area there. After we kind of died out a little bit and ended our blues organization, and I got asked and joined a organization or team called The Farm out of Madison, Wisconsin. And if you know anything about the men's game, there's several levels. There's like, you can go to church level, you can go to Class C, Class B, Class A, men's major open. Well, the Farm was men's major open. It's the real deal, okay? Now, I got to make this clear for everybody. Don't ever think that I was a men's major open pitcher. Now, I did pitch a couple games when the other pitchers got sick or didn't show up. But I was what I call myself and describe myself as kind of a tremendously average Class A pitcher. Okay? But I guess I would liken myself a little bit to like some of the best hitting coaches in baseball were not good hitters, but they had a passion and they studied the game. And that's what happened with me. And I don't think I've stopped studying yet. Somehow, I worked in the real world. For 30 some years, I ran manufacturing operations, and I dabbled in coaching, like you said, Ken, a little bit in high school level. Actually coached Little League. I coached travel ball. And I finally, I retired from the real world, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I get a call from one of my good friends, and she works at this junior college in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where I was living at the time. She says, "Hey, Rick, we just lost our softball pitcher or our softball coach. Would you like to be it?" And I said, "Well, okay." So that was the start of my college coaching journey at beautiful Spartanburg Methodist Junior College. And it kind of grew from there. It morphed. Pretty soon I got a call from Joyce Compton at the University of South Carolina. Said, "Hey, we need a pitching coach. Would you come down?" I did. Then I went to the University of South Carolina upstate, a really nice mid-major D1. Still to this day, two of my best friends, Chris Hawkins, Brian Pack, still are the head coach and associate head there. And then I finally retired from coaching softball, I thought. And I moved to Richmond, and I'm in the basement laying the rubber floor in my brand new pitching basement that we built in this house. And I get a phone call, and it's Lou Harris, champ at Georgia. And she says, "Hey, Rick, I'm kind of in a bind right now. I need a pitching coach." I said, "Lou, I just retired." She says, "Rick, I really need one." I said, "Lou, if I ever did anything like that again, I'd probably only do it for a year or two." She says, "That's good. I'll take you." That's how I ended up at Georgia. And that's my college coaching career. I did a little coaching for a season in the pro fast pitch with the Akron Racers.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I did that for a season up in Akron. All of these experiences, I look back on them and there were a few bumps in the road here and there, but boy, I had some really good mentors along the way, really learned some stuff. I'll probably say this 10 times during this broadcast is about pitching and pitching instruction and your knowledge of pitching. It's just when you think you know it all, you find out how little you really know. And I hope I fall into that category where I'm always curious. because I feel like right now I have more stuff on my plate that I'm curious about on pitching than I ever have had. I'm not sure I'm going to live long enough to get it all done. So there's my nutshell of my journey to this date. I guess my journey right now is PaulyGirl, Fastpitch, and doing individual private lessons and doing clinics and stuff like that. I've done clinics with both of you guys and enjoy the heck out of those. So
we did too.
Yeah, those were great clinics. Let's go back to your your men's fast pitch era, Rick. What level would you consider that to be? Like, did you play in the majors? Was it, more of just recreational side? What was that for you?
I did it all, but
did you?
My hometown team, Menominee Blues, like I say, Class A men's. There's only one step higher, and that's men's major open, and that's where all the big guys are, and that's where I ended up with the farm. So I guess I would say I had an opportunity to play at the highest level of men's fast pitch that there is. You play in ASA national championships or the ISC national championships, or they call it world championships. Ran into some really good pitchers in those days.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Who do you think was probably the best pitcher that you went up against when you were hitting?
I looked at that. You sent me that question. I thought, how do you just name one? I'll name a couple that you guys recognize the names. Okay, probably the most impressive, Peter Meredith, and Peter Meredith right now is the pitching coach at Brigham Young University, and I'm happy to say him and I kind of reconnected, and I was out at BYU working a little bit with Pete and his pitchers here this last fall. Pete could throw 85 or 86 miles an hour with a rise ball that would just suck the wind right out of your lungs when it went by. Okay. Now, here's another one that Michael White. All right, well, he's not doing too bad. He's the head coach at Texas, right?
Yep.
And right along with Michael White, there's a guy named Jimmy Moore. Unless you're into the game, you may not know who Jimmy was, but at one time he won 3 years in a row. He won the ASA Nationals, the ISC World Tournament, and the U.S. Olympic Festival Tournament. Those are the three biggest ones there are in the men's game, okay? Now, I'll say something about Michael and Jimmy. They couldn't or didn't blow the ball by you, but boy, their command of ball movement and location and change of speed just was unbelievable. Okay. And then I say the last one I didn't play against. When I say I play against Pete and I were actually teammates. Okay. And then he went to another team and we had to play against him, which was not fun. Okay. But one of my other teammates was Michael Piechnik. Michael's a Canadian and unbelievably talented. All three of these guys that I mentioned are in all of the Hall of Fames that there are for fast pitch pitching.
Was Mike a lefty?
Mike was a lefty. Yes. Yeah. Outstanding. There was, God, I can think of millions of others. When you get people like me with other old fast pitch pitchers from, let's say, my day or the era, we just keep naming off names of guys that were great pitchers, and it's unending list.
Awesome.
We all know Rich Balswick, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Rich falls in that category. He was the MVP of the national tournament one year. Rich is just a year or two before my time, okay? I remind him of that once in a while. Yeah.
I bet you would.
Yep.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask a question. One of the qualifications or one of the outstanding things that we didn't mention before was you also happen to have a daughter who's pretty good at pitching. Her name is Sarah Pauly. She pitched all over the world. She was an outstanding college pitcher, played in the pro game. She actually has the most professional wins of any U.S. pitcher. So I'm kind of wondering, little Sarah Pauly, when she decides she wants to pitch, I think you've mentioned before that you took her to somebody else as a pitching coach. I wanted to see, talk a little bit about that, with your qualifications and your background. How did you get Sarah started?
Well, actually, Sarah and I started together in the backyard in Phoenix, Arizona. And it's really cool because in Phoenix, Arizona, you have your backyards are this big and you got, stucco walls around them. So my neighbor right next door over the wall has a swimming pool. Sarah launched a lot of balls into that swimming pool, I will tell you. Okay. We got a video one time of our little dog running across when Sarah's throwing a pitch. She hit the dog, so, but yeah, we went a long time. I think, and this would be good for parents, I think, at some point in time, you run into a bump in a road where dad doesn't seem to know much anymore, if you get my drift. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, at that point in time, I think I was pretty intelligent. I was really lucky. I did take her to another pitching coach in Phoenix. That gentleman's name was Ron Bolden. At that time, Ron had just retired. He had been the pitching coach at the University of Arizona back when, Mike Andrea and University of Arizona was winning all their national championships. And we'd go once a week and see Ron. And then, of course, I would supplement in between. But best thing I ever did, and, I know we're going to talk about this later, but mentors. If I had a single mentor, it would be Ron Bolden. I thought I knew something about pitching. At that time, I had retired from playing the game. I had pitched, I learned so much from Ron. It was just unbelievable. And probably the most important thing I learned from him, I wish I would have really, really paid attention to it, is his demeanor or his ability to handle kids. Well, I'll tell you what, when we're at a tournament and Ron Bolden walked into the tournament, there's all these, there was a swarm of young pitchers running up and hugging Ron because they loved him so much. Oh. So anyhow, hopefully that's what it's all about someday is, you're doing it for the kids.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about when you first started with Ron, taught you a lot, but how do you think your teaching has kind of evolved over the years? Like where you started, where you were at, and now kind of like where you're still, because you said before, like you're like one of those persons that's, doesn't want to just settle, wants to keep learning, keep evolving. So where do you think, kind of give us a little, this is kind of where I started, this is kind of where I was at, now this is kind of what I'm really thinking.
Yeah, well, I hate even to describe myself this way, but let's be honest, okay? I was probably back in the Stone Ages with my pitching. I did like lots of people do. I'm sure I taught the way I pitched, and that can be a big mistake, okay? There was no instruction. In the men's game, if some guy showed you how to grip a rise ball, that was it. That was the one and only instruction you ever got. There weren't any instructors anywhere, and I don't think there hardly were any at all for young ladies. And I would say this, that what probably changed my pitching, let's say, trajectory more than anything is I got connected with a guy who introduced me to high-speed video. And so I went out and brought a high-speed video camera and started videoing, and you can see what the elite pitchers really do. How does their body move? How do they release a pitch? This kind of stuff. What's their posture look like, and things like that. And I was fortunate, go back to Sarah. Sarah's playing in the pro league, and she's playing against the best of the best. Kat Osterman and Monica Abbott and Danielle Lowry and on and on and on. I took my little high-speed camera with me every time I went to see Sarah, and I got lots of video of, back in those days, the best pitchers in the world. Well, guess what? Those girls I just rattled off pitched in the last Olympics also. They still, at that time, were at the peak of their game. And I try to take the best of whatever elite people are doing. And then, we could go a little bit farther on this journey. I guess we jump into something like motion sensing with the motion sensors, which I know you guys have done. The 4D motion product, it shows you things that you can't see with your eyes or even with high-speed video. How does the body really move? What are the absolute detail of the accelerations and the decelerations and those kinds of things? So, and golly, I'm looking at us right here. We've kind of followed the same journey. you know, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, got into being a corrective exercise specialist so I can better understand how the muscles work and the structure of the joints and stuff like that. We all are into what's called motor preferences now. You know, the square one, the nervous system reset stuff. We're into that stuff. Fascia. That's on my to-do list. I know enough about fascia to be pretty dangerous. Okay, and I want to learn more because it's another important thing. And then I'm going to throw out another name for people that are wondering, what's the goofy guy studying now? Okay, I'm really studying hard. A guy by the name of Dr. Stuart McGill. He's the top spine specialist in the athletic world. He's all about how do you support your spine and how does it work in athletics. And I've been mining just a gold mine from his stuff. I bought a couple of his books and videos, and I'm trying to apply it to pitching. I had the opportunity to do a Zoom session with Dr. McGill, him and I, and Linda Lynch, our good friend. Linda got him on a Zoom, and I just mesmerized by what he had to say. And I showed him I was going to ask him a question about pitching and something about, I think, arm whip or deceleration, He says, have you got a video? I've never really seen pitching. I showed him a video of a girl pitching, and I had a 4D motion capture of that same girl. And he looks at it. He says, oh, yeah, well, of course you got arm whip. That's the only way you can throw fast, and da-da-da. And it was like he had been studying pitching his whole life, So anyhow, those kind of people inspire me and make me think about, I guess I don't know everything.
Yeah, I mean, just sitting here, I can feel like, I should probably do a little bit more spine support myself.
Yeah, me too. When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking, man, I got to go do McGill's his big three. He's got his big three exercises for spine.
Oh, that's awesome.
I visualize doing them. How's that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day I wake up and I think, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do that. And then I wind up coming down here and sitting at a computer, working on this kind of stuff instead.
Yeah. Something I didn't mention, and totally remiss in not saying this. You guys and myself, we're part of a group. We call ourselves a Pitching Coach Collaboration. A couple of our buddies, Anna Miller and James Clark, kind of started that group. We meet via Zoom every Tuesday morning, and we're probing and questioning and sharing information and sharing ideas. And that collaboration, along with maybe my natural curiosity, I'll go all the way back to the question that you asked, Jay, is I will bet you I have formulated or reformulated my pitching instruction more in the last 6 or 7 years than maybe the previous 20.
So how has it evolved? I mean, what kind of changed? I mean, did you start out, here, true confessions, did you start out teaching hello elbow like everybody else, or were you a little more advanced than that? And kind of what changed and what drove you into some of those changes?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty certain that I did not teach hello elbow because in a men's game, you never saw it. So I'm going to teach like a guy, right? We have a bunch of fancy terminology we use now. We got, internal rotation. We got brush trigger. We got deceleration, front side resistance. Those terms, to my knowledge, never existed way back in our day when I first started. So you're trying to explain to kids, here's how the movement works. Here's where you let go of the ball. You don't let go way up here by the front of your knee. Okay. You don't worry about how beautiful your follow through looks. And then let's just start chucking the ball. And it grows from there because the time we spend now just talking about what's the correct drive for a kid, the drive mechanics. And then after she drives, oh my God, she's got to land on the ground and stabilize. How does she do that? Those things those are really foreign concepts back in the day. So just little by little, I guess I picked them up. I guess my whole studying and high speed camera stuff and thinking back on the most elite men pitchers and the most elite women pitchers, what did they do? And I guess I would like to say I didn't invent this word, backward chaining. I'm going to start looking at the release of the pitch and I'm going to go, back up the chain and see what happens. And, we use a big fancy word, the kinetic chain. Is the kinetic chain strong, or are there missing links, or what have you? So I better shut up here. I'll go on forever and we'll run out of electricity for the Zoom here.
No. You keep talking. The more you talk, the less Jay and I have to do, and we like it that
which is great. We love that, Rick. So keep talking.
Yeah.
Yep. So what do you think out of all of that was the biggest revelation to you as you were doing the high-speed video and, kind of on your journey and all that? What was the one thing where you really went, wow, I had that wrong, or I just misunderstood that completely?
Well, let me jump on my sword here. I probably way back in the day taught some things that I if I looked at them now, I would shudder and think, oh my God, Pauly, how could you be so stupid? And I use this phrase a lot with younger pitching coaches. I'm looking at them and saying, the only difference between you and me is I've already made all the mistakes. Okay. As you go on in your journey, if you don't make a mistake or teach or try something that's maybe not efficient or good, you're probably not trying hard enough. You're not searching and trying to find stuff. The key is to finally realize that's not good. That's not really how the body moves. We all, you guys are probably sick of me forwarding all those Instagram things that we see where, oh my God, some of the drills and some of the tools, and it just, oh my God. When I get up in the morning, I click on my phone and first thing I say to myself is, Pauly, don't go on Instagram. You're going to have a bad day afterwards, But I do. It's trying to recognize, is that how the body really moves in an efficient pitch? And kind of go back to that when you're looking at drills that you see people doing or tools that people are trying to sell you. I use this phrase now and again is, whatever happened to the good old days, and I'll just hold one up here, when you threw a softball. Right now, if you're not throwing something with a parachute or a ball that's this big or some half cut and half ball or whatever, well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I have 99% of the gadgets or tools out there in the marketplace. And I will bet you 95% of those are over here in my closet collecting dust. I still have some of my absolute favorites that I use, but I am pretty sure they're going to reinforce good mechanics.
What are some of your favorites? What tools out of all of that stuff do you like? I mean, obviously 4D motion. I know you're a fan of that.
Yeah, I love my 4D motion. For movement pitches, I've still to this day, I use my Diamond Kinetic softball. I want to know what the spin metrics are on the drop ball, the change up, the rise ball, or whatever. I want to know what the efficiency of the pitch is. If you don't know that information, you can't do a good job of teaching. Okay, so, Tech Winnie, yeah, I love my radar gun. I have a really nice stalker radar system that measures down to 1/10 of a mile an hour. And that is on every pitch that every kid throws when they're here doing a lesson. That's automatic. Speed. Oh, we could talk all day about speed. Speed isn't everything, but speed is really important. And speed is a storyteller. Okay, if you're giving a young lady a lesson and you ask her to do a certain movement and you know what her speeds were, and she tries the movement and you give her 2 or 3 tries and that radar gun goes down, you're thinking, oh, that's either not good for her. Maybe that's not a good movement at all. Now, if that thing starts to light up a little bit, you're saying, aha, I'm onto something. Okay, because in the end, it's how much energy do you put into a softball? Okay, and there's a whole bunch of things in the pitching mechanics that get you to that point, but that's kind of the great, measuring stick, I guess. what else do I like? Golly, I like, here's the simplest thing in the world. Oh, you guys won't be able to see it, but I got a ball that's split, half red, half yellow. And my kids are going to throw that during their warm-ups, and I'm going to see what the spin metrics are, or the spin direction on their fastball or the drop ball, or, I might have a softball that's got the seams colored in so I can use that for my curving and rising pitches. So visually, after you've seen enough pitches, visually you can kind of start to read spin. But I will tell you this. Now, maybe my eyes are getting old. If you think that you can read spin really accurately and you can tell me the spin rate, you might be the only person I know that can do that. Now, I have people that tell me that, and I love them to death, but I don't believe them for a second. So I think you need technology to help you, okay? Don't be so proud to think, oh, yeah, I know it's nice, tight spin, right? How many times do you hear that? And then you put your old rev fire on it or your DK ball, and the thing's spinning, 14 revolutions per second, which is.
If I can ask you another question here, Rick, about since we're on the topic of spin here, in your opinion, bullet spin, can you be effective with? Bullet spin at low velocity? Is that something that you teach? I mean, I'm more of looking for a better axis kind of guy. Spin axis and higher revolutions of spin. So what's your thought on bullet spin?
Bullet has too many letters in the word because to me it's a 4-letter word.
It's a 4-letter word.
How about gyro? That's a 4-letter word, right? That's bullet. I'm going to make a T-shirt that says gyro is a 4-letter word. I just am not a proponent whatsoever because the ball doesn't really move. The spin on the ball doesn't create any kind of lift or any kind of drop if it's a gyro. It's going to go basically straight. And the only reason it would move is because of the angle you threw it at or the gravitational pull. Okay? Well, I will tell you, on day one with a young lady, I don't care if she's 8 years old or 28 years old, when she comes to my place, I am going to be trying to teach her to have a nice 12 down to 6 drop ball spin. And I believe her fastball should be 12 down to 6. You should be able to morph your fastball right into a drop ball without doing anything on how you release the pitch. All you do is you just change your release angle, throw it low, and your drop ball becomes your fastball becomes your best drop ball. Bullet. I hear people, you know what I'm going to say? This is probably sound really egotistical or mean. I think people that buy into bullet spin don't know how to teach anything else. I think they're bad coaches or they're lazy. Mm-hmm. How's that? Okay, now people are going to hate me for that, but I'm not going to be around much longer anyhow, so I can take it.
No, you're going to be here for a while, Rick. We're not letting you go anywhere.
Okay.
You've got to keep going.
Yeah. Okay. But, you get into that spin rate, spin direction, spin efficiency. That's all physics. It's the physics of ball movement. And I always say this, don't ever argue with the laws of physics when it comes to making a ball move. That's why a ball does or does not move. Okay? It's, I've got all kinds of courses on my online university about that stuff. And you guys are getting me revved up here. I don't know. I'm going to have to drink more coffee, I guess. Yeah, but physics of ball movement, just study it and understand it. And here's another thing I would say. I'm never going to run out of another thing to say. You guys know that. If you do get courageous and buy something like a Diamond Kinetics ball, or you buy a Rapsodo, or you buy a $8 million Yakhertech system, okay? And you get all these beautiful measurements and metrics. Well, that's really cool, isn't it? So which one of those metrics is not good? Oh, there's one that doesn't look good. Oh, now here's the secret sauce. Why is it not good, and how do you correct it? That's the missing link in all of this stuff. I mean, I've talked to the DK people and other people in that business, and they're just and I've had hundreds of parents that bought the Diamond Kinetics ball, And they really don't use it because they don't understand the physics of ball movement. And I don't, personally, all three of us, we don't think it's that tough. It is for your common lay person, dad or mom, or unfortunately, it goes all the way up to college coaches. An awful lot of them do not understand it. That's extremely unfortunate in our game.
Yeah, and that does seem to be a problem. I mean, it's one thing to have data, but data is not information. Data is just numbers. So how do you make that leap?
How do you make that leap? Well, I'll tell you what. I tell people this one right here. This will be egotistical, but I've probably seen more pitches than any human alive. Given my longevity in the sport and how many lessons I do and how many clinics I do and whatever, there really isn't any substitute for experience. And what do your eyes really tell you? Did the ball really drop? Did it curve? Did it really have the illusion of lifting? And you combine that stuff with a million years of, why did it fall out and go down? Why? Oh, your hand came uncupped on your rise ball, right? For a person getting into the pitching instruction business, boy, there's a lot to learn out there. I'll say this, Ken, you thank you much for the great introduction on my online university. You think about this. I have this intermediate level certification and I have an elite level. The intermediate is just about the basic fastball mechanics. The elite level is how do you throw all the movement pitches, okay? In the intermediate level, it took me, I think there's 103 video lessons on how do you throw a basic fastball. And I tell you what, I probably have only scratched the surface. Okay. Now you want to go up into the elite level. There's another 100 video lessons on how do you throw a rise, a curve, a drop, a change. And I probably have only scratched the surface. I mean, it's a quantum leap ahead of where people are when they start the course, but there's just so much that I have a list this long yet of video lessons that I need to create and put into my online university because I feel like, oh man, these people need to know this and this and this.
Speaking of high performance pitching, I know that you have a course, at least one course in there that talks about spin metrics. And, I think that that's one of the things too, is that people, buy these tools. A lot of times I feel like the companies themselves don't really understand the sport that they're going for. They just know how to make something that'll measure. I know that you've taken it upon yourself to create courses for some of these things. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like if you have a DK ball, which they're not making anymore, so kind of hard to get that, or if you get access to something like a Rapsodo, talk about how, what your course involves and how it explains things.
Well, I saw a big need out there in the pitching world for what we've kind of talked about is, okay, you get all this information. Your kid throws a pitch and this comes up here on your app on your iPhone and it says, let me see, clock reading is 733, efficiency was 60%, spin rate was 1440, and it had X amount of lift or X amount of drop or whatever. What do those numbers mean? Okay, they're really, again, I'm going to give us guys right here, us three of us, we understand this stuff, but most people don't. Okay, so I saw that void, okay, and I said, well, I'm going to create a course that explains what do these metrics mean in the laws of physics, what's a good metric and what is not a good metric for all of those, whether it's your spin direction or your efficiency or your spin rate. And if you have something that falls into a not good category of a metric, what is the correction? Well, first of all, you got to know what the cause is, and then how do you correct it? And so that's what that one course, I think I call it ball movement metrics, but that's what it does. Now, it's going to show the face reading of a Diamond Kinetics ball, but your other devices, you mentioned Rapsodo, basically it's the same information. Again, you spend $1,000 or $1 million out of Yakkertech, same information. You need to understand it. I will give you, without naming names, I have actually helped on development of a couple of these different products. One of the companies I helped on the very early part of the development of their product, here's how naive or unknowing they were. I had to actually do a video and show them how did a curveball or a rise ball or a drop ball spin. I mean, I had to hold my little ball up in the air and show them how this is how a drop spins and here's how a curve spins or whatever. It shocked me. Now, these people, from an engineering standpoint, they know how to measure things. They didn't understand really what they were measuring, but they will give you some numbers. So, yeah, it just, even when the inventors of the equipment don't understand it. And I think the inventors of the equipment probably now, they understand, what the metrics mean. I'm not sure they understand what a good or not good metric is. And they certainly don't understand what is your correction. How do you correct it and get that metric to be good? That's the secret sauce. And that's where people like the three of us come in.
I want to expand that out a little bit more too. So we're talking about high performance pitching and all of that. Your online university. What made you decide to do that? What need did you see in the marketplace?
Well, first of all, there really was almost nothing out there in the marketplace. I didn't do it first and foremost to try to make $1 million, because I'll tell you what, I still haven't made $1 million. Okay. The idea, I hope, is to help kids and to help parents. And I started seeing this plethora of, back in the early days, it was all on YouTube, of these instructional things being put out. And I thought, that just isn't what I've been seeing. That's not what I know happens. And so I said, somebody has to do it. Well, I chose myself, I guess, and just got going with it. I had some help and partners along the way, and I ended up going off on my own because we kind of weren't moving fast enough. And I said, we got to get this out. There are kids being ruined all over this country by some of this old school stuff being passed along. So I got on it, and boy, I'll tell you what, I was like a hermit probably for 3 or 4 months, just creating videos and getting, the whole program put together. And then probably for the next 5 or 6 or 7 months, I kept, adding and adding and adding to it. And it's never done. Just when you thought you knew it all, you found out you didn't know it all. So, yeah, it's, and I will tell you, everybody, so many people, I think when they get into this, they're addressing the kid. And my marketing approach is, no, you need to train the trainer. So my certification program isn't for a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid. It's for mom and dad, or somebody that's an aspiring pitching coach, or somebody that is a pitching coach. I'm trying to train them because hopefully they have 15 or 20 students that now they can affect. And that's how I think you can get to the most kids, is train the trainer. And that's my approach.
I want to switch gears a little bit here with you, Rick. I actually want to talk about the game a little bit. So this year's season's basically a month away before everything kicks off. Who do you think this year is going to be, one of the top teams? And then on top of that, if you don't mind, could you share with us some of the young ladies that you've worked with in this off season that we might be seeing on TV?
Yeah. Well, if I had to bet, I would be hard time betting against Oklahoma almost for any reason. And I would have a hard time betting against Texas right now also. Okay. Probably, first and foremost, they're probably two of the best, if not two of the best coaches in the country right now, those head coaches. I was fortunate enough last year in the spring, I went out to visit Sarah in Austin, Texas. Oklahoma was in town. We went to 2 of the 3 games, and the game on Saturday was when Texas beat Oklahoma. And I said to a lot of people, I think I just saw the national championship game, best game I've ever seen. every aspect of it, the coaching, the pitching, the defense, the fielding, the hitting, just everything about it was amazing. Okay. I mean, there are some other teams that are certainly going to do well. Texas Tech's probably going to do pretty well because they seem to have themselves a pitcher now. Okay. Whoever emerges out of the Southeastern Conference will be certainly a candidate. And who is that? Oh my gosh. There's about 7 or 8. Well, I got to be careful because Texas is in the Southeastern Conference now, but, Florida, they made a really nice run last year. I hope my Georgia people can do it this year. Just on and on and on, I know. Jay, you asked, some of my current pitchers, and, I don't want to single any of them out because I love them all. Somebody asked me this question, and here goes my ego again. Somebody said, well, how many kids do you have pitching in college right now? So I went through and I totaled it up. I got 22 girls pitching in college right now.
Wow, that's amazing.
And here's what I'm going to say. And this, again, I'm back on the ego thing. 20 of those girls are pitching Division I. The 2 that don't pitch Division III. And anybody should never, ever not think highly of your D2s and your D3s and your NAIAs. My 2 girls that pitch in D3, one of them has already won a national championship, and the other one has been All-American third team and a second team All-American. Those girls are having the greatest experience, just as the girls that are at Oklahoma and Texas. And they're great pitchers too. So, I got them at a lot of them in the ACC conference, SEC conference. Around here, we got the Big South. We got the Atlantic Coast, not Atlantic Coast. I can't remember the name of all the conferences. I'm losing.
Yeah, well, there's hardly any left.
Yeah. The Sun Belt, I got several kids that are pitching in the Sun Belt Conference, really strong. They ought to be probably up there with the P4s or P5s or whatever we call it, that conference. They're strong. So, I've had some kids that have really done well. I'm proud of them. And I'm happy to say I still keep contact with them. One of my favorites from Richmond area here is Peyton St. George. Mm-hmm. The first ever commit to the brand new Duke program. She went on and her dad was so happy because she got 5 years at Duke because of the COVID. And so she got her grad degree also paid for at Duke University. Now that's pretty nice. And Peyton went on and has pitched, I think, 3 years in Athletes Unlimited and done well. So we got kids like that. I got a kid at Florida. I got one at Kentucky that I think are going to do well. The ACC conference here. I got Virginia Tech, North Carolina.
All right.
I don't know. Go on and on.
So what's it like when 2 of your pitchers are facing each other? What do? Do you root for basically a 0-0 game that, ends in a tiebreaker or something? How do you handle that?
Well, me, it's kind of hard for me to keep my mouth shut, right? It's the only time I think I do. I sit right smack in the middle of home plate behind the fence. So I'm not on either team's side. I don't wear team colors, and I try to keep my mouth shut. Every once in a while, I'll just pop my little pocket radar up and put it down and try not to say anything. Yeah, I'll make comment to myself under my breath. But I would love if they're going against each other. I hope they go 15 innings and the lights go out and the game's done.
Yep.
So, and I'm going to see some games this year that they will be going against each other. They're all giving me their conference schedules, and I'm looking where there's a possibility of 2 of my girls matching up, and I got it on the calendar. I'm trying to go to that one. So, there's not a ton of colleges right in my back door here. With softball programs, I got to go all the way down to, Raleigh, Durham area, or of course I go up to Charlottesville and watch Virginia a little bit, and we got GMU just up the road from there. I have never ever been yet to Virginia Tech or Liberty or Radford, and they're all within, I think 15 miles of each other, but they're all about a 3-hour drive. But I'm gonna go over there because I got kids pitching on every one of those teams. I got to get there.
How do you find the time to go and see their games with all the lessons you do?
Tough. The only saving grace is at that time of year, the high school programs are going. So my schedule gets really crazy. I get a call, gee, we got a rain out, so I got to cancel my lesson on Wednesday night. And I'm looking at my schedule. I'm cheering because that was the only lesson that hadn't canceled. And now I can go see a game. So and once in a while, I'll X out a game or, during the week, or I'll X out a Saturday and say, I'm not scheduling any lessons. I'm going to go see some kids play college ball.
All right. So we've taken up a lot of your time here, but I did have another question I wanted to ask you. So let's say for up and coming pitching coaches, what's the one big piece of advice you have other than, come onto your online university?
Keep in mind, everything you do should be about the kid. It's put your ego aside and do whatever you can so that kid can be all she can be. And understand, every kid's different. Not every kid is going to be an All-American and pitch on the Olympic team. Your job is to help them become all that they can become. There should be no cookie cutter approach. Just because you pitched like this back in the day doesn't mean you got 5 girls on staff. They probably aren't all going to want to pitch like you pitched. Keep the health and safety in mind. More and more kids are just getting burned out. They're getting hurt and injured, overuse syndrome. We don't give our kids enough rest. I'm not sure that the colleges do either. You get an overzealous college coach and, my kid's going to pitch 5 days a week in the bullpen. And, oh, by the way, she's got a strength program and she's got a conditioning program that she has to do at the same time. Well, you do that for about 4 months, like a college kid does. They are burned out, worn out, either mentally or physically, And the same thing if we're talking high school, travel ball. I'll say this, if there's any parent listening, put your foot down with coaches and teams and stuff like that. Make sure your kid takes a break and gets rest and lets their muscles just heal up and their body heal up, and probably more importantly, let their brain decompress. You asked for one thing, there's a dozen there. I'm sorry, Ken, I got long-winded again. Hard to believe, right? Yeah.
Rick, if I could ask a question too, I think, and this goes along the line, what advice can you give to, say, travel ball coaches who may not have a background in pitching when dealing with their pitchers?
Okay, well, great question. I would say this, first of all, whether it's high school or travel ball, understand that part of your job is to develop your kids, whether it's hitters or fielders or pitchers. Your job should not be, oh man, I have to win a trophy. I got to win the national championship. I got to win PGF or Alliance or whatever. Okay. If you do that, you're sacrificing the development of your kids, and they just aren't going to continue to get better. And I think that's a travesty or a tragedy. And, we all have kids. And when we send them off to college, we think, we egotistically, we're pretty good, but we expect them to get better in college. We expect them to be developed. Okay. We don't always see that, unfortunately. Okay. But I'm going to give you an example. I'll use Sarah. Okay. Now, poor old Sarah, like Ken said, she's done a lot of really good things. If Sarah came down here right now, we did a lesson here in my basement, my little whiteboard that I make kids write all of their little things they have to work on, her whiteboard would still be full of things that she could still do better. Okay. And I also have a little sheet hanging on my wall here. It's Sarah's speed chart from the time she was, I think, 12 until she finally retired. Okay. And I take kids over there sometimes, and moms and dads a lot. And I say, look at this. At what age was Sarah when she hit her top speeds ever? 28 and a half years old.
Yeah, I got to, if I can, let me share a story real quick. So we did a clinic down in Columbus, Indiana, when Sarah was there. I don't know if you remember that, with Ron McDonald down there. And at the end of that clinic, it was probably one of the best moments. And I tell this story all the time. So everybody huddles around Sarah and you, and Sarah's like, do you guys have any questions? And of course, you know it, right? Instantly, they're going to ask the first question about how fast have you ever thrown a ball? And Sarah said her speed, I think it was 72 or something. I don't know. What was it, Rick? Do you remember what was her max? Okay. And then she paused for a second and said, guess how old I was when I threw 72? And then she said, I was 28 and I was in the NPF. And the best line that she said was, you are never a finished product. Always continue to work on what you're doing and you will continue to get better. And that is something I tell a lot of the kids that I have. It was just a great moment. And it was just awesome that Sarah said that. And, you know, I tell my kids all the time, hey, listen, this is where you're at now, but we're not finished. You know, we got a road here to go. So I just want to give props to Sarah on that. That was probably one of the coolest moments that I've ever been a part of. And really translating that to the travel ball coaches, like, these kids need time to develop. So give them time, give them opportunities to do those things. And there you had Sarah telling people that she didn't hit her maximum speed till she was 28 years old. It's just amazing.
I'll try to close with this. You guys sort of asked about, you know, who were some of my mentors and stuff like that. You know, if I go back just in college, you know, I coached under Joyce Compton at South Carolina, the most integrant coach I ever have met in my life. I learned a lot from Joyce. I was at USC Upstate, Brian Pack and Chris Hawkins. Okay. I learned how to really coach and have a great time when you're doing it. Okay. And then this, you know, might be right up there at the top of my mentor list. When I went to Georgia and I coached under Lou Harris-Jemper, I have never, ever run into a person who was more curious than Lou. If there was something out there in the softball world that she thought maybe she didn't know, she was going to find out about it. It was amazing. I mean, and Lou had been there a long time, and you'd think, oh, she knows it all. She kept digging and grinding. And I tell people, if she's walking down the street and sees a stone, she's going to kick it because she's thinking there's something underneath that stone that I don't know. And that's it. Is, you know, kids, you're never a finished product. Coaches, you are never a finished product. How's that?
That's terrific. Yep. Well, Rick, again, we've taken up a lot of your time. We really appreciate you joining us today. So any parting thoughts?
It's been my pleasure. It's people like Ken and Jay here and a bunch of other people that are in our little circle that keep us going. And, you know, the fires keep burning. That's important. Okay.
Hey, Rick, real quick too, if people needed to find some information on PaulyGirl Fastpitch, where could they find that?
Yeah.
Where can they get information about you and your program?
The name of the program. It's all one word, PaulyGirlFastpitch.com. And you just go on the internet and type that in, and our website will come up, and it's got everything. You can see my bio and Sarah's bio, and you can see what our courses are all about. And there's also, I'll tell this for anybody listening, you go over to the toolbar section and you hit blog, and underneath blog is going to be a drop down, and there's going to be probably 20 of, you know, blogs like what you and I are doing right now, or, you know, instructional kinds of pieces of information. Those are all free. So I try to give rather than just being mercenary about this.
We definitely appreciate it.
All right. Likewise, guys.
Appreciate your time today, Rick.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, well, Rick. Everybody, that's it for us today. On behalf of Jay Bolden and myself, we appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you tell your friends, direct them out that way. No better way to get some good information than listening to our friend Rick Pauly. So thanks a lot, and we'll be back again.